So, okay, so let's talk about the question of how far you can walk, what you're going to find on your function report when the SSA demands it of you. I see a lot of inaccurate sharings by claimants filling those out. I get the distinct impression, and sometimes it's actually admitted that they just guessed at what they could walk, and sometimes they don't even know how far a mile is when you're on foot. So this is really important, the question of walking, amongst many other important ones on your function report. I mean, you really have to know what you're doing so that you don't get tempted to speed up the process of filling it out in order to, get through it by guessing. You really got to put more time into it. And I know they don't give you a lot of time. So I would suggest those of you who are thinking of filing or just filed and you haven't gotten the demand for a function report yet, go ahead and download it off the internet and give a rough draft to yourself. Start it off because it's going to be requested of you by and large. So walking, if you don't know, I mean, a lot of people will know. They're like, I can't make it to my mailbox and back without resting for whatever reason. I mean, it could be cardiovascular, breathing, pulmonary, legs, back pain, weakness, fatigue. I mean, forever and a day, there could be so many possibilities. So you really want to make sure you have it right if you don't know automatically. I'm going to take a little hold here. Give me a second. Sorry about that. That was a bunch of dogs going crazy outside. So what was I saying? The walking. All right. So if you don't already know that you have difficulty getting from one end of your house to the other, or you already know that when you go to the store, you are limited to going over and getting that milk, maybe the eggs, and getting out of there, because that's the distance you can go before you have to, get in line and get back to your car or whatever the case may be. So if you don't know that, and that would probably be because walking it's not that you can't do it like some people. So you don't really pay attention to how much you can do it. How much you can do it is really critical because it's going to determine what your exertional, potentially what your RFC, residual functional capacity, is that the SSA is going to pin to you as being yours. So if you are unable to walk X distance, you're going to want to make sure that's clear. So I often suggest to people to go try it out. Go to the store and see how many, because you want to kind of give it to them on a flat surface. So as if you're, working in a building, how, would you be able to walk around in the building at a job that requires it? And you might be able to do that, but you need to know. So I would go to potentially, and this is again, unless a doctor says, no, this would be unsafe for you, maybe go to your grocery store and just walk the aisles. Now, keep in mind, when you're in a grocery store, you're normally stopping, looking at things, checking prices, etc. It's not necessarily straight walking, but you can use that as your little, your track to figure out how far you can walk. And just go up and down the aisles and count the aisles. And of course, it'll be a little extra because of the space between the aisles, but that might be a gauge. Like I can go 6 aisles before I need to stop and rest, or I'm done and I got to leave because now my pain is vamping up. It could be the aggravation to your back, whatever the case may be with regard to your impairment. So if you don't know, try not to guess. If you need to maybe try to walk a block, if you live in an area that has blocks, see if you can go around the block. Is it a regular size block? There's a million ways to skin a cat to figure out how far you can walk before you notice pain increasing or weakness or whatever's going to stop you. It could be your feet. So make sure that you find out. And again, you might already know the answer to this, and so this doesn't pertain to you as much, although take note of what you know and use that in your answer. Guessing, exaggerating is not helpful. And I would also add, there's a question about, they ask about walking in a couple different areas and in different ways. But, and one of the questions also is, you know, when you need to rest after walking whatever distance you said you could do before needing to rest, how long do you need to rest for? Try to figure that one out too, for real. Don't guess. I have some people who literally have to go lie down for 2 hours after doing, you know, a short, you know, grocery stint. I have other people that that's not the case. They might have to, they could maybe walk a quarter of a mile or a half mile, and then they'll need like a 5 or 10 minute break by their estimation. I would time it. Maybe it's only 2 minutes. Maybe it's 15. But you really want to know, because, you know, you're going to be asked about it potentially at a later date, face to face with a judge. And you want to know that you are not guessing, that you know what your limits are, and that you're, you know, you want to be credible and reliable when you testify. So the breaks, another thing I think is important, if you take a break, let's say you say, I need a 5 minute break. Can you, and let's say you said that you could walk a mile. And if you, can you go after that 5 minute break, walk another mile? They're not going to ask you about that. But if you cannot, or let's say you can do whatever you said above about what you need before you break, like how far you can go before you need a break. After that X minute break, can you go repeat that same distance? I will say the vast majority of the time, people who have limitations to walking, it's usually, by the time they're filing for disability, it's usually where they can't keep repeatedly doing the same walking that they can manage once or maybe twice. Sometimes it's twice, and then usually it's something less. Sometimes it's once, and it's definitely no more or something less. So every person is different, but you want to know, you know, where you fall into it. Because I think it's important for the SSA to know, and they don't ask for this, and maybe there's a reason for that. But if you can walk a quarter of a mile, but then you can't do another quarter of a mile. So you could not be doing a job that requires, you know, kind of substantial walking for a quarter of a mile, you know, and then they have you off task doing something else. And then you got to do another quarter of a mile, and then off task for something else for 15 minutes, and then another quarter of a mile. If you can't do that repeated, that quarter of a mile should not be held to find that you could do a job that would require repeated quarter of a mile walks. You see what I'm saying? So you need to know, you know, where your limits are, what kind of rest you're going to need, and whether you can go and repeat that. I find this out for my clients on every single case. When they say X amount, I say, now, if you can take that break, can you repeat that? Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's darn no, you know? So it's really important that we make the distinction to the SSA, I think, so they have fully accurate information from you. And then, you know, down the road, it's going to have to be reflected in the medical records, not that kind of detail, but, you know, a medical impairment that would either expressly or obviously, you know, provide the difficulty in repeating a task like that. You know, a walking of that duration repeatedly. So, but getting it from you is the start, you know, and if you're contradicting that in your report because you don't mention it, that could come and bite you later. All right. It could be used to support a denial potentially. So you want to make sure it's clear whether you can repeat that or not. There's a little spot where I always put it in for have my people put it in. It's like, it's right under where they say, how far can you walk before you need to rest? How long do you need to rest for? It was in that, how long do you need to rest for? We don't just say 5 minutes. If that person can't repeat and they say to me they cannot repeat, I make sure that's in there for them. So, all right, that's it. Walking, really, really important. There's another one on sitting, super important. I would suggest you go watch that one. I'll try to link it, because that one, here we go with the sun again. That one gets ignored a lot because people who think that sitting is, they don't even realize whether they could sit or not, because we all sit, right? And they never really check to see if they can sit for 2 hours straight in a hard chair, like a work chair. So check that video out and make sure, because if you have problems with walking, it's very possible you have problems with sitting, particularly if you have leg or back problems. So it doesn't mean you can't do it at all. It's about whether it's affected and how limited it is. Okay. All right. Ciao for now. Catch you later. Bye.